Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. Firstly, I want to welcome everyone to the first of our webinar series, When is Work Work? Joining us today is Nicola, who works in the legal team for Clubs New South Wales. She's been with the company for quite a while. I'll let her give you more of a background on herself and her experience. Nicola's also going to be chatting about a couple real world examples and cases around the issues of when is work work. Myself, I'm the head of customer success for ClubsHR. For anyone that doesn't know, ClubsHR is a online platform with apps designed by Clubs New South Wales and Rossdale in a partnership. The platform is really there to help clubs manage their rostering, attendance, payroll, HR, and compliance. So we're going to be touching a little bit on it when we get into the webinar in just a second. So the webinar, just to give you a very brief overview, we'll be covering off, as I said, a couple cases by Nicola. We'll then jump into ClubsHR. We'll show you how we will automatically help you while you're rostering, manage your breaks and minimum engagement and compliance. We'll also be jumping into attendance section to then showing you, again, some of the warnings and ways to manage your attendance from all your employees. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Nicola and we'll get started.
Thank you, and thanks for attending the webinar today. For those who I haven't worked with, my name's Nicola Shaw and I'm the legal counsel at Clubs New South Wales in the workplace relations team. My role is to provide assistance to clubs in all aspects of WR, HR and industrial relations. I've been involved behind the scenes in the testing of ClubsHR against the Clubs Award, but I'll now be taking a more active role to ensure that clubs that really can benefit from this product and this rostering system have access to it. The topics that we're discussing today is when is work work? And you would assume this would be a pretty straightforward kind of question, but when a company with a $10 billion turnover gets it wrong, I think it is a really great place to start. The company I'm referring to is Aldi, the supermarket chain. And in this matter, warehouse workers were required to attend the warehouse 15 minutes before shift to ensure they completed safety checks, attended toolbox talks, they had to drive their store pickers to a central location, and they also had to collect and assess equipment. Aldi argued that it wasn't a direction for staff to do this. They only needed to be there at their start time of their shifts. But the union said that it was a requirement of their role, and if employees didn't perform those pre-work duties, it would be considered unsatisfactory, and it did sometimes result in counselling sessions from Aldi with the employees. The judge found in this case that there was a clear implied direction that employees had to arrive early, and going on to state that the pre-commencement tasks cannot be characterised as private activities and were solely for the benefit of the employer. Therefore, Aldi was liable to pay the employees for the time it takes to perform those tasks. This has resulted in $10 million back pay to 4,000 employees. And what clubs should take away from this case is that if there is a direction or expectation on staff that they need to perform duties that are solely for the club's benefit, then it's going to be considered work. The judge in this case did make it clear that activities that involve the employer putting their items in lockers or putting on PPE wouldn't necessarily meet this definition, much like if an employee turns up to work and clocks in early, but they're having a coffee in the lunchroom before their shift, you wouldn't need to pay them for that time. The next case I want to discuss looks at the importance of award interpretation and what is considered a break. ClubsHR has a really exciting product for our team at Clubs New South Wales, and the reason for that is that it takes the guesswork out of award interpretation. Hours of work have gone in to ensure this product is compliant, and Carol will take you through some of those examples shortly. But in this 2020 case, it involved another huge multinational company, McDonald's. And again, it just shows you how easily things can go wrong and how costly it can be for companies when it does. In this case, a finance franchisee manager misread the EA, which said all employees who work 4 or more hours will be entitled to an unpaid meal break of 10 minutes. The manager advised staff this would only apply to staff who worked 4 hours or more. And further, they went on to say this would be the only time that staff would have a drink or go to the toilet, and they had to use that 10-minute paid break to do that. The judge found that not only under work health and safety laws were employees allowed to have a drink or use bathrooms during work time, which didn't need to be a designated break, it also found that all staff who'd worked just a 4-hour shift would also be entitled to this 10-minute break, as clearly stated in the EA. Since this case is now such a large class action, it's sitting in the federal court. It's dealing with similar issues, and there's claims of over $100 million in underpayments and damages. Again, this just highlights how complex awards are and the importance in interpreting them correctly. I'll now hand you back over to Carl to go through ClubsHR and show you some other really cool features.
Nicola, thank you very much for that. Folks, just give me one moment while I share my screen with you. All right, fantastic. I hope you can all see my screen there now. Beautiful. Well, to get started there, guys, I thought, we're only going to really, the aim of the webinar is keep it short and sweet. I did forget to mention earlier, if you guys have any questions, just please type it in the comment box and we will get back to them towards the end of the webinar. Otherwise, reach out to you personally afterwards. To get started, we're looking at the staff tab, and really it's kind of where the powerhouse of the compliance comes into play. Now, I'm not going to go into detail of the whole application, but really just the specific aspects of what we're looking at now. So I'll open up my own profile for the moment, and I'll just come over into the payroll section. So the beautiful thing about ClubsHR is, as we mentioned, it's got the award hard-coded into the background, which basically means for your club managers and owners, you really don't need to worry about the compliance anymore when it comes to rostering or processing your payroll. We'll do all the thinking for you behind the scenes. Now, for my current profile that we're looking at here, you can see that I've been assigned to 3 positions: a bar, a day in lieu, and a manager position. Now, ClubsHR is able to allocate a specific level to a position. So, for example, if I was to work in a bar position, then I'll automatically get assigned to the casual general level 3 level with all the rules that are associated with it. If I was to work in a manager position, I would then get the full-time manager level 6 plus 20%. And just to explain a little bit of how it works, if I click on the customize button there, these are all the rules that are associated to the casual general level 3 award. We've got ordinary hours, which applies Monday through to Friday from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, and that's at a rate of 29.40 cents. We then have early morning, late night, Saturday, Sunday, public holiday. We've got all your daily overtime rules, weekly overtime rules, allowances, and minimum engagement hard-coded in. So when you go to roster your employees on, we'll automatically take into account when they've been rostered on and therefore what rate to pay them at. And same again, we'll throw out warnings for you. So when you're rostering, if they hit any daily overtime or weekly overtime or minimum engagement rules, we'll flag that for you while you're rostering. So preparing yourself ahead before actually publishing that roster out obviously will save you a bit of a headache when it comes to your time in attendance. Never mind that, it also allows you to budget extremely accurately. So if you're a club that keeps a close eye on your labor costs day in, day out, and for the week, it's a really, really fantastic tool to help you manage that. Even further, once we get into payroll section, you'll notice you'll be able to export out your timesheets. And when that happens, whether that's a direct integration to your accounting package or an export and import, will automatically split up the hours of your employees based on the rules that are assigned to them on that specific pay level. I'll now jump into the rostering just to give you a quick idea of kind of what it looks like when it comes to building a roster and the notifications that you get. So I'll jump onto Friday where I've just got some dummy data in there. So Tom, you can see he's working from 9 through to 1 o'clock. If I hover over his shift, I can see that right now he's got no unpaid breaks. Now, unpaid breaks are a setting that which we will automate in the platform for you when you come on board. And right now the trigger is set on 5 hours. So Tom doesn't get any break, but we can see his rate and his estimated cost for a shift. Jack, on the other hand, he's working a pretty long shift from 10 all the way through to 12 o'clock. We can see straight away that he's broken an overtime rule by 1.5 hours. So again, the rate will go up, and we will export out the 1.5 hours as overtime line, or send it directly into your accounting package for you. And again, you can see your estimated costs as well as the 30-minute break, which is automatically applied. On my profile, you can see that I've only been rostered on for an hour shift, which is going to break our minimum engagement, which is less than 2 hours. So again, if you're trying to process it out in payroll, we'll flag that for you, and we'll also export out 2 hours, just to ensure that you are kept compliant according to the awards. You do have an option under the custom column to adjust this, though, if for whatever reason you're only going to pay that employee for less than the 2 hours. But again, the warning will be very in your face when you do try to process that payroll. Tom Jones, on the other hand, again, he's worked a 5.5-hour shift, pretty standard. He's got a 30-minute break applied. And finally, Ben, who's working a 5-hour shift, he does not get a break applied. So the beautiful part, once we publish this out to all your employees, they'll get notified in a few ways: email, SMS, and in-app notifications. And they're also going to be able to clock in and clock out for their shifts. So really handy to see all those events come in, everything stored digitally for you too, so you can always go back and review them at the end of the week. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Now, before I go ahead and run through the payroll, I'll just click on publish. So straight away, you can see, even before you try to publish out to this team, we will warn you again. So if there's any breaks, so for example, there's one employee where it's exceeding the maximum daily hours, or goes into overtime penalties, in simpler words. And we've got another employee that has got 5 shifts where it's breaking their minute engagement. So it's a great way for you then to jump back and fix your rosters if need be before publishing that out to your team. Or ultimately, if you would like to still go ahead, you can ignore all our warnings and publish it irrespectively. So I'll now jump back into our payroll section. So we've now published the rosters out to your team. Everyone's got those rosters. They've gone in, they've clocked out for the start and finish of their shifts and breaks. And this is now either at the end of the day, which is best practice, or at the end of the week. And you as a manager are approving those timesheets to be paid. Now, I've just, again, put in some dummy data just to show you a couple of different examples. First up, I'll show you the totals at the top, which are very similar to what you might have seen in the rostering section. So based on the timesheets that you're approving for the day, we'll automatically work out what costs are associated for all your employees. You can also put in your actual figures that you made for the day. So you'll have an extremely accurate labor costs calculations by the end of the day. Also something you can keep track of through the week and manage your labor costs as you need. So I'll start walking through a couple of examples here. Jono, he was rostered on for 9 o'clock start, finishing at 5 with a half-hour break. Now, as we can see, there was no clock in and out records, no auto rounding, and no custom fields updated. Now, the reason for Jono just being displayed like this, if I click the info icon on the far right-hand side, we'll notice that I left a note on the day that Jono actually called in sick last minute, and we had to find a replacement for him. So this is really handy, and now this is for when your managers are actually on the day. They can manage this all directly from the apps on their phone or from their time clock app. If an employee doesn't rock up, they can mark them as sick, and this will automatically feed into your payroll section. So you can choose to then process Jono's time as sick leave if he's a part-time or full-time employee and has a balance. Alternatively, we could choose just to not pay him by unchecking this section just over here. Probably before I go any further, I might just quickly cover off a couple of options that you do have for you when you're approving a timesheet. So the first one is rostering. Now, rostering is obviously their roster time. So in Tom Jones's case, it was 11 through to 3 o'clock with no break. Now we can see time clock column, which is actually the times that he clocked in and clocked out for his shifts and his breaks. So in this case for Tom, he clocked in at 4 minutes past 3, and again clocked out at 4 minutes past 3. So Tom must have obviously forgotten to clock in and clock out. Now, auto rounding, which is a really, really handy tool, and I'd say about 95% of the clubs utilize it and have it selected automatically, will look at their clock in, clock out time and round those figures up or down depending on the rules that the club sets. So whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes. So this really helps as long as you've got your employees engaged and they're clocking and clocking out. This will basically automatically clean up all your timesheets, round everything up or down, something that a lot of clubs might be manually doing at the moment. And ultimately, it should help you save improving timesheets probably to about a couple minutes per day rather than a long period of time, which might be managed manually. So in Jono's case, I would certainly look into why he clocked in and out at 3 o'clock. Again, I can click on the info icon and I can quickly have a look through those events. So excuse the beautiful picture of me. This is on a Friday afternoon as I was just running some of these demo examples. So I can see that just, my comment was, sorry, I forgot to clock in, and I actually started at 12 o'clock. So it was a little bit later to my roster time. But also have a look at his clock outs, if he had any breaks, which in this case he didn't, and any payroll notes. So in this case here, I've actually put a note there that I've adjusted his start time to 12 p.m. as he forgot to clock in. So we can see in here, this is a field where you're then able to edit. So if you're not happy with any of these 3 options, you can jump in and choose the time that you're going to be paying Jono. So in this case, he's going to have no break and he's working from 12 to 6. Actually, in this example, he should have a 30-minute break. Again, you can automatically see that the costs are calculated as you update all the information. In the next example, I will look at myself. I was rostered on from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. You can see automatically the minimum engagement is kicked in for 2 hours. I can see I clocked in at 2:38 and clocked out at 3 o'clock. My auto roundings just automatically rounded up and down to those nearest figures for you. And we've also got a little warning on the far right-hand side that basically says, because I've selected this auto rounding column, that I will be paying less than 2 hours. Now, if I chose his rostered to obviously ensure that he is getting paid the 2 hours, once I click out, then it will automatically export out those 2 hours for you and you can stay compliant. The final option is to choose whether you'd like to adjust those times and only pay him for when I actually started. So if I look again and it's clock in, clock out information, you can see I actually clocked in late for 38 minutes because I got stuck in traffic. So again, it might be a decision for you to then pay him from when he actually clocked in at 2:45 through to 3 o'clock for argument's sake. Now, if I was to look at Tom Jones, we can see that Tom was rostered on from 3 o'clock through to 9 o'clock with a 30-minute break. Tom was clocked in at 2:45 and clocked out at 9:47. Again, our auto roundings cleaned that up for us. And finally, again, we might just have a quick look at those clock in, clock out events just to see what happens. So Jono here, Tom was a star employee and he started 15 minutes early as usual. Again, as a manager, you would decide, was he actually working those 15 minutes or was he just clocking in for a quick coffee ahead of time to adjust your timesheet in the custom column? Clocking out, obviously, we finished 47 minutes late. And that's because we had a busy night, so certainly probably going to pay him for the additional time. We can also have a look at what time he started his break and what time he ended his break, again, as well as any payroll notes. So I certainly recommend that you would leave notes if you are adjusting. In Tom's case, I'll be more than happy to leave it with auto rounding, which has the 2:45 through to 9:45 selected automatically there. Finally, we'll look at Ben. Now, Ben was rostered on from 5 through to 11, and he has a half-hour break. Now, Ben did not clock in, he did not clock out, and obviously, custom column is not selected at the moment. So certainly for Ben, would query what is going on there. Now, as a manager, I guess you should know when the employee is not there or he is there. In Ben's case, Ben actually did not rock up for his shift at all. So I would certainly go ahead and uncheck him, which means he will not get processed out for the week. So to finish up, ultimately, I'll probably set up my timesheets as I have now. I would have Jono, who has approved leave for sick, which will be exported out. Tom, who I would have used a custom column and edited from 12 through to 6 with half an hour. For myself, I'll be paying the 2 hours, or alternatively, most likely actually probably just paying for the 50 minutes that came in because he was late and then finished early. And then finally, Tom, I'll be paying off his auto rounding, which should be selected straight away for you guys, which is inclusive of the break. And I would go ahead and process that payroll, which will then be sent to your accounting packages. And that is it, folks. So we like to keep it short and sharp and hopefully directly to the point of the webinar. If anyone has any questions, I'd love to leave a moment now for you to reach out. Alternatively, we'll follow up with you afterwards. Alrighty, no worries. Well, thank you very much, guys. Now, as we mentioned before, this is only a very, very small component of ClubsHR. There are certainly a lot more features and functionality within the platform for your clubs to help manage, whether that's through HR, documents, staff onboarding, attendance, so on and so forth. If you are interested in learning a little bit more, please head over to our website. We've got a lot of information there. Alternatively, feel free to give me a call or email. I'll follow up after this webinar with you all. And I'll be more than happy to run a demo with you, show you through the platform, explain how it works. And we do have a 30-day free trial for you to utilize if you'd like. And that's just really a great opportunity for you as a club to get in, test it, make sure it works for you guys before you make a final decision whether you want to continue to use the platform or not. Thank you very much for attending the webinar again. Pleasure to have you all with us. And again, Nicola, thank you very much for your introduction, and I look forward to seeing you all again in the next webinar.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.